The storm that broke everything. Please stop. Her voice trembled, barely audible over the sound of shattering glass. Her husband, Kong Min-jae, stood over her, his chest rising with anger, his eyes cold and merciless. The room smelled of alcohol and fear. Naomi clutched her swollen belly, 8 months pregnant, trying desperately to shield her unborn child. "I told you not to call anyone," he roared, his hand striking the table beside her, sending another glass crashing to the floor. "I didn't call anyone," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. But he didn't believe her. He never did. For months, Naomi had lived in silence, her laughter replaced with fear, her bright spirit crushed under the weight of abuse. Once, she had been strong, independent, full of dreams. Once she had been loved. A sudden loud knock echoed through the apartment. Both of them froze. Another knock, this time louder, more commanding. Min-jae frowned. Who the hell is out there in the storm? Naomi's heart began to pound, not from fear this time, but from something else, something dangerous. Hope. Miles away, a sleek black car cut through the blizzard like a blade. Inside sat Jae-hyun Park, one of the most powerful CEOs in Korea. Known in the business world as ruthless, cold, and untouchable, he was not a man who got involved in other people's problems. But tonight was different. Tonight, he wasn't acting as a CEO. He was acting as a man who had just received a message that shattered his control. A message from someone he thought he had lost forever. "Please help me." That was all it said. But it was enough. Jae-hyun's grip tightened on the steering wheel, his knuckles turning white. Snow slammed against the windshield, but his eyes never wavered. "Faster!" He ordered his driver. "Sir, the roads." I said faster. There was something in his voice that left no room for argument, because buried beneath years of cold discipline was a storm far more dangerous than the one outside. Back in the apartment, Min-jae opened the door with irritation. "What do you want?" He stopped, standing at the doorway. Untouched by the storm despite the snow swirling behind him, was a tall man in a dark coat. His presence alone changed the air in the room. Calm, controlled, dangerous. Jae-hyun Park. Min-jae blinked in confusion. "Who are you?" Jae-hyun didn't answer immediately. His eyes moved past him and landed on Naomi. Time stopped. There she was, weaker, thinner, bruised, pregnant. Something inside him snapped. When he finally spoke, his voice was quiet, but filled with deadly authority. "I'm here for her." Naomi's breath caught. "Jae-hyun," she whispered, her voice breaking as tears flooded her eyes. Min-jae scoffed. "You got the wrong place. She's my wife. Get lost." Jae-hyun took a step forward. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. "I'll say it once," he said coldly. "Move." Min-jae laughed, stepping closer. "Or what? You think you can just walk in here and take?" He didn't finish his sentence. In a flash, Jae-hyun grabbed him by the collar and slammed him against the wall with terrifying force. The sound echoed through the apartment. Naomi gasped. "I don't repeat myself," Jae-hyun said, his voice low and dangerous. For the first time, fear flickered in Min-jae's eyes. "You don't know who you're dealing with." Jae-hyun leaned in slightly, his gaze ice cold. "No," he replied. "You don't." With one final shove, he released him. Min-jae stumbled, clearly shaken now. Jae-hyun didn't spare him another glance. He walked straight to Naomi. Up close, the damage was worse. Bruises along her arms, fear in her eyes, pain she tried to hide. His jaw clenched. "Can you walk?" he asked softly, so different from a man he had just been moments ago. Naomi nodded weakly. I think so." As she tried to stand, she winced in pain. Instantly, Jae-hyun was there, supporting her carefully, as if she might break. "Easy," he murmured. Their eyes met. For a moment, the past came rushing back. Memories of love, laughter, promises that were never meant to be broken. "I'm sorry," Naomi whispered. Jae-hyun shook his head slightly. "Not now." Behind them, Min-jae recovered, anger returning stronger than before. "You think you could just take her?" he shouted, grabbing a bottle and smashing against the table, turning it into a weapon. She's not going anywhere. Naomi froze in fear, but Jae-hyun didn't even turn around. "Stay behind me," he said quietly. Min-jae lunged. What happened next was fast. Too fast. Jae-hyun moved with precision, disarming him effortlessly and sending him crashing to the ground. The broken bottle skidded across the floor. Silence filled the room. Min-jae groaned. Unable to get up, Jae-hyun looked down at him, his expression unreadable. "If you ever come near her again," he said slowly, "you won't get back up next time." There was no shouting, no threat, just a promise. Minutes later, the apartment door opened again, but this time, Naomi was leaving, wrapped in Jae-hyun's coat, supported by his arm. She stepped out into the storm she had once feared. But now, it felt like freedom. The cold air hit her face, and for the first time in months, she breathed without fear. The car door opened. Jae-hyun helped her inside, carefully. As he moved to step away, her hand suddenly grabbed his sleeve. He paused. "Why?" she asked softly. "After everything, why did you come back for me?" For a moment, the ruthless CEO, the man feared by everyone, was gone. In his place was someone else. Someone real. He looked at her, really looked at her, and then his gaze dropped to her belly. His expression changed. Something deeper, more intense, more dangerous. Because, he said quietly, some things were never over. Naomi's heart skipped. The car door closed. And as the vehicle drove off into the raging storm, neither of them knew that the truth they were about to uncover would change everything. Secrets beneath the snow. The storm outside raged harder as the car sped through the icy streets. But inside, everything was silent. Too silent. Naomi sat curled in the back seat, Jae-hyun's coat wrapped tightly around her fragile body. The warmth should have comforted her, but her heart was anything but calm. Across from her, Jae-hyun sat still, his posture straight, his expression unreadable. To anyone else, he looked exactly the same as always, the cold, untouchable CEO. But Naomi knew better. She could see in the slight tension of his jaw, the way his fingers flexed just slightly against his knee. He was angry, not at her, at what had happened to her. And somehow that made her chest ache even more. "You shouldn't have come," Naomi said softly, breaking the silence. Jae-hyun didn't look at her. "And leave you there," he replied calmly. "That was never an option." Naomi swallowed, her fingers tightening around the coat. "You don't understand." Her voice trembled. "If he comes after you." "He won't." This time, Jae-hyun turned his head slightly, his eyes meeting hers. The certainty in his gaze made her breath hitch. "I'll make sure of it." There was again that ruthless side of him, the man who didn't just make promises. He made outcomes. Naomi looked away, her emotions overwhelming her. "You're still the same," she whispered. Jae-hyun's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. "No," he said quietly. "I'm not." The car finally came to a stop in front of a towering, luxurious building, one of the most exclusive residences in Seoul. Naomi hesitated as the door opened. "I can't stay here," she said quickly. "People will talk. Your reputation." "I don't care." The answer came instantly. Firm, unshaken. Jae-hyun stepped out and extended his hand toward her. "Right now, your safety is all that matters." Naomi stared at his hand for a moment. The same hand that once held hers so gently years ago. Slowly, she placed her hand in his. And just like that, everything changed again. Inside the penthouse, warmth surrounded them immediately. The soft lighting, the quiet atmosphere. It felt like a completely different world from the chaos she had just escaped. Naomi took a few careful steps forward, looking around. "This place," she murmured. "Temporary," Jae-hyun replied. "You'll have something more comfortable soon." Naomi shook her head slightly. "This is already too much." Her sentence was cut short as a sharp pain hit her side. She gasped, clutching her belly. Jae-hyun was at her side instantly. "What's wrong?" I'm okay," she tried to say, but her voice betrayed her. "You're not." His tone left no room for argument. Within seconds, He was already pulling out his phone. I'm calling a doctor. No. Naomi grabbed his wrist, panic flashing across her face. No hospitals, please. Jae-hyun frowned. Why? Naomi hesitated. Her lips parted slightly, then closed again. Fear filled her eyes. And in that moment, Jae-hyun understood. His expression darkened. He did this to you, he said quietly. It wasn't a question. Naomi looked away, tears falling silently. That was all the answer he needed. Jae-hyun inhaled slowly, controlling the storm building inside him. Fine, he said after a moment. No hospital. I'll bring someone here. He gently helped her sit down. This time, when he moved away to make the call, Naomi didn't stop him. An hour later, the penthouse was quiet again. A private doctor had come and gone, leaving behind instructions and medication. She needs rest, the doctor had said, and no stress. Her condition is fragile. Fragile, the word echoed in Jae-hyun's mind. He stood near the window now, looking out at the storm. His reflection stared back at him, cold, composed. But inside, everything was breaking. Behind him, Naomi shifted slightly on the couch. Jae-hyun, she called softly. He turned immediately. Yes. There was hesitation in her eyes, fear, and something else. Something he hadn't seen in years. Trust. You shouldn't get involved any further, she said quietly. This is my problem. Jae-hyun walked toward her slowly. No, he said firmly. It stopped being just your problem the moment you called me. Naomi's breath caught. I didn't mean to drag you back into this. You didn't drag me, he interrupted gently. I came because I wanted to. Silence fell between them. Heavy, unspoken words filled the air. Naomi's hand moved unconsciously to her belly. Jae-hyun's gaze followed the movement. For the first time since that night, he asked a question that had been burning inside him. How far along are you? Naomi froze. 8 months, she replied softly. 8 months. Jae-hyun's eyes darkened slightly. Something didn't add up. You've been married for a year, he said slowly. Naomi didn't respond. Her silence was loud. Too loud. Jae-hyun stepped closer. Naomi, she shook her head quickly. Don't. But it was too late. The truth was already rising to the surface. When did it start? He asked quietly. Tears filled her eyes instantly. I said don't ask. Her voice broke. Jae-hyun's chest tightened. A realization hit him, sharp and undeniable. His voice dropped. Is the child mine? The world seemed to stop. Naomi's breathing became uneven. Her hands trembled. And then, very slowly, she nodded. Yes. The word barely came out, but it hit Jae-hyun like thunder. For the first time in years, the Ruthless CEO lost control. His mind raced. His heart pounded. A child. His child. All this time, and he didn't know. Why? He asked, his voice no longer steady. Why didn't you tell me? Naomi broke down completely. Because you left, she cried. You chose your company, your power, your world. There was no place for me anymore. Jae-hyun flinched. I thought you didn't want me, she continued, her voice shaking. And when I found out I was pregnant, it was already too late. Silence. Heavy, painful silence. Jae-hyun ran a hand through his hair, tried to process everything. I would have never left if I knew, he said quietly. Naomi laughed bitterly through her tears. But you didn't know. And that changed everything. The storm outside began to calm. But inside the penthouse, a different storm had just begun. Jae-hyun looked at Naomi again, really looked at her, at the woman he once loved, at the mother of his child, at everything he had lost and just found again. His expression hardened, not with coldness, but with resolve. From this moment on, he said slowly, you're not going back. Naomi's eyes widened slightly. Jae-hyun, you and the baby, he continued, his voice steady now, are under my protection. There was no hesitation, no doubt, just absolute certainty. And for the first time in a long time, Naomi felt something she thought she had lost forever. Safety, but far away in the shadows of the storm. Kong Min-jae lay on the floor of the destroyed apartment, blood on his lip, rage burning in his eyes. "You think this is over?" he muttered. His hand slowly reached for his phone. "It's just beginning." The shadows of revenge. The storm outside had finally subsided, leaving a thin, icy mist over the city. But inside the luxurious penthouse, the storm had only just begun. Ifmi Adeyemi sat wrapped in Jae-hyun's coat, her hands trembling over her swollen belly. The warmth of the penthouse was comforting, but it could not chase away the fear that lingered in her heart. Every sound, from the hum of the heater to the faint traffic outside, made her flinch. Jae-hyun Park, once the ruthless CEO feared by everyone in Seoul, now stood near the window, staring into the city lights. His expression was sharp, controlled, and yet beneath it, there was something vulnerable that no one had ever seen before. "Ifemi," he began, his voice low, "I need to know everything, every detail about him, about what you've endured." Her eyes welled with tears. You don't understand, Jae-hyun. It wasn't just hitting or screaming. It was," she paused, trembling. "It was every day. The threats, the lies. He made me feel worthless. And now he's trying to come after you again." Jae-hyun finished for her. He clenched his fists, the only part of him that betrayed his fury. "I will make sure he never touches you or our child again." Ifemi's tears fell freely now. I just wanted to survive until you came. That's all." Jae-hyun moved to her side and gently held her hands. His eyes softened, not the cold, calculating eyes of a CEO, but the protective, dangerous gaze of a man who would go to the ends of the earth to defend what he loved. "You survived," he said quietly, "and I won't let anything happen to you again. I swear it." Meanwhile, in a dimly lit apartment several miles away, Kong Min-jae struggled to his feet. Blood ran down his face, a mixture of anger and humiliation burning in his eyes. "They think this is over," he muttered to himself. He gripped his phone tightly, his fingers trembling. "They think they can take her from me, but no one defies me in lives." A shadow flickered across the room as he dialed a number. "Get everyone ready. She's not going to enjoy her little escape. I want her brought back alive but broken. Somewhere, far away, the name Jae-hyun Park made him hiss through clenched teeth. And him, he won't interfere again. Not if I can help it." Back in the penthouse, Jae-hyun didn't sleep. He sat by the window, his mind racing with every scenario imaginable. Ifemi had survived the storm, but the real storm, the one that would come from Min-jae's revenge, was only beginning. He knew Min-jae wouldn't back down. That man thrived on control, on fear, on domination. And now, Jae-hyun had given him the one thing he couldn't control: Ifemi and their unborn child. He rubbed his face, jaw tight. "I've dealt with criminals, CEOs, and politicians," he muttered to himself. "But this is personal." He turned and saw Ifemi resting on the couch, finally closing her eyes, exhausted. Her chest rose and fell with the rhythm of the storm that had passed. But Jae-hyun knew it was fragile, too fragile to be left alone. He pulled a blanket over her shoulders and whispered, almost to himself, "I'll protect you, no matter what it takes." Hours later, a faint knock echoed to the penthouse door. Jae-hyun's head snapped up. "Who is it?" he demanded, moving toward the door. A small voice called from the other side. "Delivery package for Mr. Park." Jae-hyun frowned, but opened the door slightly. Outside, in the snow that had settled into a fine layer of frost, stood a courier holding a small black box. No name, no sender. He took it cautiously. Inside, he found a single envelope and a small note. "You think you can hide her, but she is mine. And soon, so will you be. Kim Jae." Jae-hyun's grip on the envelope tightened until the paper crumpled. He slammed the door, his eyes dark with fury. "He's not just coming after her. He's coming for me." Ifemi stirred at the sound. "Jae-hyun, what is it?" He held up the note. "It's him. Min-jae. He's already planning something. And this time it won't be just words." Her eyes widened, fear flashing. What are we going to do?" Jae-hyun crouched beside her, his hands on hers. "We fight. We survive. And I promise, I will not let him touch either of you. Not ever." Ifemi nodded weakly. Somehow, despite everything, The warmth of his protection gave her courage. She placed her hand on her belly. "For the baby," she whispered. "For our child," Jae-hyun corrected, his voice low, fierce, and unbreakable. Outside, the night was calm. But in the shadows, Min-jae's plan was already in motion. The war for Ifemi and their unborn child had only just begun. Part 4, the first strike. The penthouse was quiet, but the air was thick with tension. Every shadow seemed longer, every sound sharper. Ifemi sat on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, her fingers resting on her belly. Jae-hyun had not left her side since the note arrived. "Sleep," he told her softly, his voice calm but firm. "You need to rest. Nothing will happen while I'm here." Ifemi tried to nod, but her mind raced. Even in the safety of this luxurious sanctuary, the thought of Min-jae lurking outside, plotting, made her shiver. Jae-hyun, meanwhile, paced near the window, his phone in hand. He was already pulling strings, security, private investigators, and trusted allies across the city. He didn't just anticipate danger. He prepared for it like a general planning for battle. "I can't believe he's actually coming after me," he muttered under his breath. "After everything he did." Then his phone buzzed. A secure message flashed on the screen. "He's moving tonight. He's got men. He knows the location. Be ready." Jae-hyun's eyes narrowed. "Tonight," he said quietly. "He thinks the darkness will hide him." Ifemi heard him, her heart skipping. "He's coming," she whispered. "Yes," Jae-hyun replied, crouching beside her. "But he won't find what he expects. Not while I'm alive." Hours passed. Outside, the city slept under a thin layer of frost, unaware that danger was moving beneath its surface. Min-jae, meanwhile, had gathered his men, a small army of ruthless enforcers who had nothing to lose. He smirked as he checked his phone again. "They think they can hide from me," he hissed. "She is mine, and I will make sure he pays for every moment he kept her away." A shadow moved behind him. One of his lieutenants, a bulky man with a scar across his cheek, stepped forward. "Boss, are you sure about this? Jae-hyun Park isn't just any man. He's untouchable in soul." Min-jae's lips curled into a cruel smile. "Untouchable? We'll see about that. Tonight, she comes back to me, or nothing will survive." Back in the penthouse, Jae-hyun had implemented every precaution. Reinforced locks, surveillance cameras, and a small army of trusted guards stationed in secret. "Ifemi," he said softly, "if anything happens, stay hidden. I need you calm, for both your sake and the baby's." She nodded, gripping his hand. "I trust you," she whispered. Jae-hyun leaned close. "You don't have to say that. You've already survived everything, and now we survive this too. Together." The words carried a weight that Ifemi had not felt in years. A promise, a shield, and something else, something that made her heart flutter despite the fear. The first strike came at midnight. A sudden crash echoed from the outer perimeters of the penthouse. Metal scraped against metal. Then another sound, footsteps, careful but deliberate. Jae-hyun's eyes darkened. He grabbed a sleek black baton from a nearby drawer and motioned for Ifemi to stay down. "They're here," he muttered, moving toward the source of the sound with deadly precision. The attackers were professionals, but they hadn't counted on Jae-hyun's preparation. Within seconds, the first man approached the main door, only to find reinforced locks and security measures that slowed him down. Jae-hyun struck swiftly, precise, controlled, lethal. The first two men went down before they could react, their attack failing before it had even begun. Ifemi held her breath as she watched him move. There was something terrifying and beautiful about the way he fought. Every strike calculated, every motion flawless. And yet, even as the danger passed the front door, one thought raced in her mind. What if he fails? Outside, Min-jae clenched his fists as he watched through hidden cameras. The first wave of his men was already falling. Rage boiled in him. "Pull them back," he shouted, throwing the remote aside. "We're going ourselves." Inside, Jae-hyun knew this would come. He had been expecting Min-jae to take personal action. His opponent was dangerous, cunning, and unpredictable. He moved to the inner room, where Ifemi hid behind the couch, her face pale but determined. "You're safe here," he whispered. "I'll handle him." Her hand touched his arm. "Jae-hyun, don't get hurt." He looked at her, eyes softening for just a second. Then the Ruthless EO returned, the protector, the man everyone feared. "I won't let him touch me or you," he said. Minutes later, Min Jae breached the penthouse himself. Snow and wind followed him into the foyer, as if the storm had come with him. "Jaehyun Park," he shouted. "This ends tonight. Give me what's mine." Jaehyun stepped into the light, stance unshaken. "She's not yours," he said calmly, "and you won't touch her." Min Jae laughed, cruel and sharp. "We'll see about that." The two men locked eyes. One had nothing to lose, the other everything to protect. In that moment, the penthouse became a battlefield, and the true war for Ifemi, for their child, for love and survival, was only beginning. Part 5. The Battle for Her Freedom. The penthouse trembled under the weight of the storm outside, and the storm inside. Min Jae's laughter echoed to the corridors like metal on ice. "You think you can protect her?" he shouted, stepping closer, his breath sharp in the cold air that had followed him in. "She belongs to me." Jaehyun stood firm, every muscle tense. His hand hovered near the door, ready to strike at the first sign of aggression, but he didn't move recklessly. He had faced powerful enemies before, but this was personal. This man had hurt someone he loved. "You don't get to touch her," Jaehyun said quietly, voice calm but deadly. "I won't let you. Not now. Not ever." Min Jae lunged. The first clash was violent. Furniture crashed, glass shattered, and the sound of fists meeting flesh filled the penthouse. But Jaehyun was faster. Years of combat and ruthless training allowed him to anticipate every move. Ifemi watched from behind the couch, her hands on her belly. Fear gripped her, but it was mixed with something new, awe. Every strike, every block, every calculated move told her something she had always known deep down. Jaehyun would never let anyone harm them. Minutes felt like hours. Min Jae was strong and relentless, fueled by rage and obsession. But Jaehyun was controlled, calm, and precise. Every attack Min Jae made was countered. Every step he took was anticipated. The fight moved to the penthouse like a deadly dance. Furniture splintered, pictures fell, and the once pristine space became a battlefield. At one point, Min Jae slammed Jaehyun against the wall, and for a split second, it seemed like he might win. But Jaehyun twisted sharply, sending Min Jae crashing into a bookshelf. Books and shattered glass rained down, but Jaehyun didn't pause. He moved closer to Min Jae, his voice low and controlled. "You are done. You will not touch her. Not ever." Outside the penthouse, police sirens wailed faintly in the distance, alerts triggered by Jaehyun's pre-installed security system. Min Jae noticed too late that the world was closing in on him, but he refused to give up. "I will not fail." Min Jae roared. "She is mine." Jaehyun's expression hardened. "She is my responsibility. And if you come near her again, you won't survive the next time." With a final, precise strike, Jaehyun disarmed Min Jae, sending him sprawling to the floor. The man struggled to rise, rage burning in his eyes, but it was over. His men were incapacitated. Min Jae was defeated for now. Breathing heavily, Jaehyun turned to Ifemi. Her face was pale, but relief and admiration shone in her eyes. You saved me," she whispered, voice trembling. "I promise," he said simply, reaching out to her. "And I meant it, always." She stepped closer, her hand brushing his. Then, placing her other hand gently on her belly, she said softly, "For our child, thank you." Jaehyun's eyes softened as he looked at their unborn child. "We'll protect them. No one will ever hurt you. No one will ever take you from us." For the first time in months, Ifemi felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Safety, not just physical safety, but emotional safety, the kind that comes when someone is willing to fight for you with everything they have. Outside, the storm had passed completely. The city lights reflected off the snow, calm and serene. But inside, a new storm had begun, one of healing, reconciliation, and love. Ifemi looked at Jaehyun, tears in her eyes. You came back for me." "I never left," he said quietly, taking her hands in his. "Not in my heart, not for a second, and I never will." She smiled through her tears, Feeling warm spread through her chest despite the cold night. Then we survived together. You, me, and our baby. Jae-hyun nodded, his protective aura softening for just a moment. Together, always. The penthouse, once a battlefield, now felt like a sanctuary. Outside, the snow glimmered like silver, and the storm that had threatened to destroy them had passed, leaving only clarity, resolve, and an unbreakable bond. But somewhere in the shadows of the city, Min Jae's rage still simmered. This was not the end. It was only the beginning, and Jae-hyun knew it. One thing was certain. He would face whatever came next, and he would protect it from me and their child at all costs. This is Air Nero Romance. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next episode for more drama, suspense, and romance.